What is the most powerful trait we have? You need power, speed. Let your imagination do the rest.
Boxing King Media, we're here for a special episode of the Brutally Honest podcast. Normally it's Dom on his own, but we've got two guests for him, backed by popular demand, Ryan Rhodes. The last one, we had to cut a lot out last time, Ryan, so you'll have to watch what you say today.
There was no swearing. It was just the truth.
Get it out.
Yeah, the truth is too brutal for viewership, I think.
Yeah, okay.
And we've got the legend himself, Adam Smith, who's been part of the gym a long time. You know, he's been in and out this gym from back in the day. But I called it a bit of a special episode because this Saturday marks 7 years since the death of Brendan Ingle. Dom, your dad, obviously. Just a few words on that. You know, it's 7 years gone. Do you still, just tell me, what do you kind of do when it's anniversary time? Do you do anything special?
Obviously, you know, it's a sad time, but we look back over the things he's done. We get the albums out, we get the videos out, we look at the old interviews. I play them to my kids. You know, he's so much a presence. It sounds silly, really, doesn't it? But he don't actually seem like he's gone because, like I say, everywhere you look in this gym is just a reminder of him. It's not. You know, people are coming and think, well, where's Brendan? You know, he'd be here somewhere because nothing else has changed, is that he's not here. So, you know, it is obviously a sad time, but and time's gone really quick. But like I said, that, you know, if he was looking down, he'd be very happy how things are going and how the gym's still running. Now, boxing in Sheffield it's still thriving. You know, people are still coming through. You've got Dalton Smith, you've got other fighters, and all the gyms are still running. It's, you know, it's what he created years ago when he came to Sheffield. There was very little boxing. It's, you know, it's still going strong from the times when he started to push it. You know, when the old school fighters had all gone around Sheffield, Henry Hall, and all these type of fighters, and it's got St Vincent's going, Croft House, and the gyms. And then you look, like I say, Ryan's gym, Dave Colwell's, Junior Witters. Boxing's thriving again, so he'd be happy with that. That it wasn't all in vain. It's still there. It's still exciting. People still want to do it, and his name's still linked with it.
It definitely is. And Adam, I'll just come to you. Dom, when I first met Dom, and a lot of people when they meet him for the first time, they always think he's really intimidating. So did his dad have the same aura? Because you did a lot of interviews with Brendan throughout the years.
I loved his dad. He was a very special figure in a lot of people's lives, not just in this gym, but in broadcasting. When I was in the early days at Sky, I was telling the guys I used to spend 3-4 days a week up here. I was in Sheffield more than I was in London. It was a fantastic time. On the back of Harold Bomber Graham, you had Naz coming through, of course, Ryan, you had Johnny Nelson, sort of rebuilding his career after he'd been in exile. And you know how close I've grown with Johnny over the years, and he became obviously a big part of Sky on the other side. And Brendan Ingle was a father to Johnny. So for all of us, we learned a great deal from him. I would say with Emmanuel Stewart, maybe Freddie Roach over in the States, and Brendan Ingle here, they were the wise folk that sort of, I don't know, they helped build my career, I guess, in a way, and taught me so much, and I listened so much. Brendan would stand over in the corner by the ring, and you just go and listen to him, and for me that was priceless time. What he did in here was phenomenal. Not just building the champions, but building the confidence of the kids in the community, giving them a belief, a structure, giving them time. It was wonderful, and getting to know the characters, not just the ones that top the bills, but the ones that even they might be journeymen, they might even have a few fights and go off and do something else, but they all came out of here in a much better way, and it was an amazing place. And yeah, I miss him. It seems 7 years it has gone like that, and yeah, there won't be anyone like him. So to have John and Dominic and Ryan and so many around still, to have the gym continue is brilliant. It's what Brendan would have wanted. Kelbrook has been in here this morning. You know, still these guys that were kids when I first came up here. It's amazing to see, and to still see them doing so well is brilliant. And I know Brendan will be looking down and be very proud of what he developed here.
And Ryan, how do you kind of, if not celebrate or deal with that anniversary when it comes around every year? Because you spent your childhood around, Brendan.
Yeah, from 6 years old, I walked into this gym till I was 28 years old and kept coming backwards and forwards. Brendan was like such a father figure to me and Naz. We were in this gym more than we were at our own home, and forever I'll be thankful of that. He learned me so much about myself, boxing, life. Not just when you left that gym, he taught you how to respect people, respect yourself and your please and your thank yous. That's what Brendan was about, not just the boxing, but when you left the gym and conduct yourself really well.
We know Brendan had really good dry humour, so if he walked in and saw you with your shaved head and your beard, what do you think he'd say to you?
He'd said to you, "Did you get gas with that haircut?"
He said he's had a prison cut.
Yeah, that's what he'd say.
Have you been in prison, Rhodesy? Yeah, he was just dry, Brendan. He had such a connection with fighters. You could speak to one fighter, but you knew you had to speak to another fighter differently. You could speak to one kid one way and another kid another way. And he had such a connection with every person what came in this gym.
100%. Dom, I'm going to put Adam on the spot here. There's a famous interview, I think it was just in the gym, in the ring in that corner, where Adam's there grilling your dad about percentages and how much money he's earning. I always remember this one particular interview. Do you remember it? Were you in the gym at that time?
Yeah, probably, but he got asked a lot about that percentage thing and how money works out.
Dom's doubled his percentage
Yeah,
now.
I wish I could. Well, actually, no. I actually kept the percentage same and doubled the work. That's what
I remember
did.
those interviews. We did one with Naz and one with Brendan.
Yeah, but yeah,
Three
listen,
times.
there's lots of there's lots of famous interviews, but the one that always sticks in my mind, and Adam will 100% know this one, is when we all went to America for Wayne McCulloch, and Naz came in a vile mood and absolutely shut everybody down in flames. Colin Hart, Adam Smith, he was out giving it to everybody, and I always can remember getting back after the public workout. We went back to the hotel and Naz sat there and he went, I think I've had too much coffee.
They're all coming into me. Look at it.
Just making a special thing.
Just jumped into the.
You're welcome to jump in, John. I know John Ingle will stay
meant
off
to do
camera
that.
normally.
So he came back from the session. So we got. What happens here? We got off Concord. We flew into Atlantic City, into New York actually, because Naz had a problem with his visa, and we flew in Tuesday before the fight on the Saturday, and Naz didn't want to fly into Atlantic City. He wanted to fly into New York so all the newspapers could make a big hoo-ha about him. So we got into New York, and then we got in this stretch limousine and drove for about 3 hours, maybe longer, to Atlantic City on this one long road, and it was so uncomfortable. Anyway, Naz were drinking coffee in this, pulling off and drinking coffees all the way now to keep himself awake, because he knew we were going to have a workout when he got there. Got into this hotel where the ring was set up, did his workout, had a go at Adam, had a go at Colin Hart, had a go at everybody. He'd done his workout and he was mouthing off, and then he walked out, and we sat in the hotel room because I was with him, and he went, I think I've gone overboard there. He was coffee talking, I've had too much coffee, I'm tired, I've had too much coffee, oh God, what have I done? And I just looked and I thought, yeah, you did. But when the caffeine high had come down, he could think, oh Jesus, what have I done? But like that, when he didn't apologise to anybody, he just went, it's done there, innit? But yeah, it was sharp, yeah, it was. And everybody's looking around and he's thinking, what's got into him? Like, nobody couldn't understand it. Like, yeah, you've done this and you've said that, and boy, kicking off everywhere. And my dad's like looking and saying, like, shut up. Nah, I'm not shutting up. Boy, he did proper kick off. But yeah.
You got any memories, Adam, of Brendan maybe having got you off camera or even?
Brendan, never
no.
Brendan. No, Naz, yeah. Naz was great. 90% of the time he was absolutely fantastic. He was great to. I mean, we waited a long time for him. We remember sitting in here for hours before he'd come down. But when you got him, he was absolute mustard. He was lightning. He was fantastic. And there was a time when Ryan will remember before he fought Tom Boom Boom Johnson in London, and they were staying in a hotel in London, and we were sat outside for 6 o'clock in the evening waiting for him, and he was upstairs with all the boys, and eventually they came down about 2 in the morning, and they had these big gloves on. They were like, Or something.
Yeah,
Remember that?
I remember that
That went
actually. Yeah,
mental.
outside the Dorchester.
Yeah. And it was like we got 2 minutes of television after waiting for 8 hours, but
Yeah.
it was gold. So you did that. Yeah, there was one or two sort of darker moments with interviewing him, but over the years it was fantastic. He was electric, and he was electric. What I loved, because he was hanging with the boys. It was a
They all bounce off each other.
yeah, it was a group of them. It was fantastic. Johnny and Ryan and Kevin, and it was just great. And that was when Naz was at his best.
It's great to see that obviously that legacy still lives on, in different aspects, as Dom's explained earlier through his nephew Luke, who's trying to set up another generation of Ingle fighters. But moving on, we're going to talk about the boxing at the weekend, the big fight, and it's the only topic we're really going to touch on today. Johnny Fisher, Dave Allen. I saw some comments online. Some people are saying it was bad matchmaking, but then people a year ago were saying Dave Allen's over the hill. So obviously now that the results happen, it was a devastating knockout for Johnny Fisher. Dave who used to train at this gym as well, funnily enough. Ryan, I'll start with you. What did you think of the outcome? Did you expect something like that to go down?
It was down to experience. At the end of the day, it was experience. Everybody thought, like you just said, Dave was over the hill. Obviously not. But Johnny Fisher, such an inexperienced heavyweight, to get into a fight like that, was it bad matchmaking? Who knows? Maybe they wanted to push Johnny that little bit too fast, too quick, too soon. But I expected something like that, being honest. The one thing about Dave Allen, he's got plenty of heart. He really has got plenty of heart. And I think he believed in himself for this fight. I think he really, truly believed from making the rematch, he was going to win that fight. And when you've got that belief, it's hard to be beaten.
Dom, what did you think? I know because you're big on matching fighters at the right time and building them slowly. You've done that with some of your fighters here. Was that the right fight at the right time for Johnny Fisher?
Well, you have to question Johnny's position as a boxer. Like I always say, and Ryan will probably tell you this, that do boxing if there's nothing else you can do. Like Ryan came in, weren't particularly good at school, a bit of a naughty lad, plenty of energy. And all the best fighters, Kel, Ryan, Naz, they weren't bothered with school. Once they got into boxing, they just wanted to box. And we've had a couple of educated kids who've, done really well in school, been to university and want to box. And none of them really have amounted to anything, because you should only be doing boxing if there's no other choice. And Johnny Fisher's been at university, he's done rugby. And like Ryan says, he looks the part, he's a big strapping lad, he's strong and he's all right when he's attacking you. But he hasn't got the experience to deal with somebody as experienced as Dave Allen, who's been in with everybody, who knows every trick in the book. He hasn't got the experience to match Dave, because Dave gets hurt, he knows how to bluff it, he knows how to stand back, he knows how to get through the round. As soon as Johnny Fisher got hurt with that body shot, he registered on his face, and you could see Dave like a lion going to kill its prey. You can see the fear, you can see where the damage is, and it's just a matter of time. And Dave didn't rush, he just took his time, broke him down, and he got him in his inexperience. And I don't think, Johnny's had enough time in boxing, or will ever have enough time in boxing to learn all that, because it's something you've got to learn as second nature from being a kid. He was in the gym before 10 years old. You'd look at him when he was 11 and 12, a little smiley kid with mullet cut, think, he's a pleasant little kid. But like my dad used to say, he'd rub your eyes and come back for your teeth. You know what I mean? You're like an angel with a smile, but you were vicious at 12 years old. Some 14 or 15-year-old kid picking on him at school, he'd flatten him, but you won't look at it. And that's the thing. Johnny Fisher can never learn that. And it's a great story. He did boxing, he's made a lot of money out of it. He beat Babich, who was another kind of novelty fighter.
Cruiserweight.
Yeah, whatever. And he came through. But even though Dave's not, it's not like Dave's got better, he's having a bit of a resurgence. Even by his own admission, he went, yeah, I still didn't do my dieting. He's got that natural ability to fight, Dave. He can fight, he's got a good boxing brain, he's got plenty of heart. He comes from Conisbrough, where they used to fight for fun. His dad used to box. His dad was a vicious fella. He's been on his case. So he come down here a few months back and he went, be honest, Dominic, because he was doing his own little bit on his YouTube channel, Dave. He went, oh, it's better, who were better fighter, me or me dad? Like, and I went, your dad? He went, what? I went, yeah, your dad were better than you. And his dad were, because his dad was only a small fella, but he were vicious. He were absolutely vicious. I says, he's not saying, I says, him, your dad, no, you're not anywhere. Like I used, Dave were a bit disappointed. But it was great that he won at the weekend. And I know, because Dave's dad used to spar with me a few years ago. He used to batter me, he used to batter everybody else. He used to give Errol Graham a good spar. A little fella, vicious he were, like, nobody's picking on me. And he was never scared of anybody. So, you know, Dave's done well in that fight, but it's like Ryan says, it's because he's physically stronger than Johnny, he's a better boxer, he's got a better boxing brain, and he's been in boxing from a young age, and he's also got a dad who's been in boxing as well. So he's got all that experience, and Johnny really was like a lamb to the slaughter. I think after the first fight, anybody smart would have just veered him away from Dave Allen and thought, oh, you know, Dave Allen shouldn't be really giving him a fight at this stage where they are, and look for some easier options for Johnny to build on. Because when it comes that close with a fighter, you know, Dave's not at his peak anymore. He's coming down, but he's doing all right. You've got to think to yourself, you've got to question it. I think, well, if Dave's giving him that fight, it's a bit too much experience. They need to give Johnny some more different options to get time to develop, because he's got to develop a lot more. What is he, 26, 27? So, you know, where Johnny is now, it's like what you'd expect of a probably 15, 16-year-old kid in boxing, where they're still having to learn stuff. And by the time he does learn it, he'll be too old or too damaged, or he'll have had too many hard fights. It might be a bit harsh, but that's the reality of boxing.
You think he could win a British title?
No.
Don't you?
No. Well, Dave Allen didn't win a British title, did he? So if Dave Allen didn't win a British title...
But to be fair, I think Dave were chucked in well above his level.
Yeah, of course he was.
Dillian White.
Yeah, of course he was. He was.
You know,
he was.
Luis Ortiz.
He was chucked in above his level, but that's the choice of boxing. If you've either as a fighter, you have to say that's too much for me, or your manager says, yeah, my kid's not ready. Somebody's got to put the brake on. With us, it was always us. Yeah, we're not ready for that one. You see, when you box Paul Silky Jones, the massive amount of experience that Paul Jones had over you. It was one of them type of fights, but you could see Frank thinking, well, I've brought Ryan Rhodes along, it's a bit of a do or die situation there. And only because we knew Paul Jones, who's my age, and I'm about 7, 8 years older than you, and we knew he was hard at the weight, and I'd seen him out months before downtown partying, you were on it. It was always going to be, is it going to be Ryan's fitness and determination against Paul Jones' experience and, you know, being in bigger fights?
It
and
felt right at the time.
It was like that, and you were losing that fight until it started breaking down, and you clipped him and you got him, and he couldn't recover from that, because, and it was just, you know, probably a bit sooner in your career that could have gone a different way.
Yeah.
And don't forget, he'd only just come off giving up the world title fight, winning a world title. There was a lot of things, and it was a massive ask. And when you compare that fight there, that was at British title level, to Dave Allen and Johnny Fisher.
Yeah.
It was miles away. You were only a young kid. You were, what, 20? Paul Jones was senior, 28 years old. Different levels. So when you say, can he win a British title fight? Well, you've only got to look at who's in front of, you know, Johnny Fisher in the ratings in the top 10. I think it'd be difficult for even Dave Allen to beat anybody in the top 10.
Dom's saying this. Dom actually picked Johnny Fisher to win
I
this
did pick Johnny, and do you know what? I picked Johnny Fisher to win the first time, and there's a story behind that, because, you know, Dave's been down here, he's trained, and I said to him, I trained for the Dillian White fight, but he came down here as a kid. I said, you've got a lot of ability, you've got all these things, but you've got no commitment and discipline, and it's going to be you're a big fella, it's going to be difficult for anybody to control you and tell you what to do. And I'm not going to get into loggerheads with that, so you're better off leaving. Now, Jamie Moore's training him, doing a great job. Did you stick to diet, Dave? No, I didn't.
Well, I seen him on the scales, and I just thought straight away, he's just not.
But it will reinforce the fact, well, why do I need to diet? Why do I need to be in shape? I've already done that. Yeah, you might have done it with Johnny Fisher, but to get to the next level, Dave's going to have to really, really get himself in shape. It's not a good place to be. So Dave turned around and said, every time Dominic says I'm going to lose, it gives me more determination to win. It's a bit reverse psychology. That's where it is. I didn't think that Johnny Fisher would beat him, to be honest. And I'm glad that Dave's won, because after all this time being in boxing and taking the hard fights and jumping in, he deserves something out of boxing. He's getting a lot of recognition. You know, he's won a fight against Johnny Fisher, no matter what level it is, and he'll have another fight. He might have another 2 or 3 fights and hopefully makes plenty of money. He looks after it. He's been through a struggle. He's been in a dark place. Johnny might be in a dark place now, but Dave Allen's been there. My dad, after one fight, went to see him in his flat in Doncaster. He had come out for 2 or 3 weeks, you know, sat in his dark room being depressed. And my dad went round and gave him a bit of a pep talk. He didn't train him at the time, but he went down and saw him. So you look where Dave is now, you know, he's 30 odd years old, he's got 2 kids and missus, he seems settled, he's got some motivation in life for some reason to do it. He's just got to be very, very careful what he does in the next 2 or 3 fights to make as much money as he can with as least damage as possible. And the one thing we don't want to happen to Dave Allen is in his next 2 or 3 fights to end up flat on his face somewhere in the ring, and that's the party's over. He needs to finish on his feet, 3 or 4 fights, make the money, and then get out of it.
Just want to got a couple of minutes there before we're got to wrap this up. Adam, just want to quickly get your opinion on the drama building up to the fight. You know, me and you and Gareth Davies did a bit of a piece together. You know, the big drama between Gareth and Big Johnny's dad. You know, about comments and commentary that Gareth did. Obviously, you've been in the commentary position. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where someone's called you out and the way you've kind of narrated something. What reflecting on that now? Was Gareth over the top?
No. Listen, I think ultimately fighters can be very sensitive, and also family members can be too. And Johnny Fisher's dad, Big John, is obviously they're really, really super close. So yeah, you can get upset with things, but ultimately, you know, I think what Gareth said was, or what Spencer would say, is their opinion, and that's that really. I mean, I actually, going back to that first fight, I thought Dave won it, but I didn't think it was an outrageous decision. I think it was sort of, you know, by miles. I thought he won the fight, clearly. And I thought he was really unlucky. And I felt more for Dave that night, I think, than on any other night that I've seen Dave Allen fight, because he seemed to actually really have a good mental, physical place in his life. He was training with Jamie Moore, and I thought he boxed really well, especially the back end of that fight. I agree with Dominic. I think they probably shouldn't have taken the rematch. I think that's Johnny. You know, Johnny Fisher wanted to do it. He wanted to take it to the copper box. He sells it out. He's a great story. Yes, and he's not like the kids that have come through this gym where they're natural and they know how to fight in any situation. He was a rugby player. He got a 2-1 in history at university. He's a lovely lad, and he's trying to box. And I've got huge respect for him to try and do that. He's made money. He's done well. It's a great little story. But when you've sort of been tested by a Dave Allen who's been in with everybody, we know how talented Dave is and how he's been not looked after himself over the years and probably hasn't fulfilled what he could have done. But he gets himself in a good place and boxes like he did in Riyadh. Then you've got to think maybe Johnny's not quite ready for that rematch. But most people thought Johnny would edge it. A lot of people I spoke to in the trade thought this is Johnny Fisher's time, because Dave will be that little bit older and Johnny will have learnt from the first fight. And in the first 3 or 4 rounds, he boxed okay. I thought 2, 3, 4, he was boxing all right, but he was expending loads of energy. And he wasn't really getting Dave in any trouble. And Dave just sort of old manned him, kept coming forward, putting him in difficult situations, not really doing much. And then when he felt it was time to go, ironically in that 5th round that he dropped him in Riyadh, he did. And it was all about experience. And Johnny found himself in a place that he didn't know what to do. He couldn't handle it. And they were devastated afterwards, Mark, Jimmy Tibbs, the whole team. And I get it, right? It's a horrible place to be. I was in Lee Wood's dressing room the week before. You know, your heart goes out to fighters. And I always like to go and see the losers afterwards, because, you know, that's a tough place to be in those days and weeks afterwards. So I went to see Johnny and he was devastated. He said, look, I've let everyone down. I said, you haven't let anyone down, Johnny. I said, you get in the ring and you've done that. And you've just been beaten by a guy who's had a fantastic night and he's got the experience on you. And Johnny going, I let everyone down, everyone that paid good money for a ticket. Bless him. You know, your heart did go out for him. And look, he'll come back, he'll dust himself down, and they'll need to think of, you know, some easier fights to have. It's a good question whether he'll become a British champion. I said to him afterwards, I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to try and become an English champion. That's what he said. And he said, if I get a British title shot, great. He knows what he is. And it's difficult if you're not a natural fighter from a kid, from an 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, 16. If you're coming in at 18, 19, it's harder and it's going to take more time. But he's a heavyweight. He's 26. He's a great guy. He'll get himself into great shape and he'll go again. As for Dave Allen, Dave's night. Finally, gets a title. It's terrific. And he didn't look great, I didn't think, on the scales. And he probably did eat too much from the fridge. But if he believes in himself and he gets himself and keeps himself in good shape for the next year or two, he can have a nice homecoming up here, keep himself in good fights, but not too dangerous fights. I agree with Dom. He's a great guy around the scene. He's good on the mic as a co-commentator. He's got kids on the show on Doncaster Friday night. He's a fantastic person for boxing. He's made some money. I hope he goes out in the next 2 or 3 fights, makes some more, and it's a good ending because he's been a great guy and he's had his ups and downs, Dave, and we're really happy for him. But it was a fight and a night where there were 2 good guys, and you sort of felt devastated for Johnny, but really happy for Dave.
Ryan, just quickly get your opinion of that. Are fighters too sensitive? And what did you make of that Gareth Davies and the Fisher family situation?
Well, I thought Gareth was talking more about the judging rather than the fight. That's what I interpreted it as, more about the judging, not about Johnny Fisher. So that's all I thought about that. Fighters can be sensitive. Fighters can be really, really sensitive. You've got to understand what fighters put themselves through for 8, 9, 10 weeks of camp. And, you know, whatever happens at the end of that, win, lose or draw, fighters are going to be sensitive. So that's what people need to understand.
I think Ryan's, he's right. When you're talking about these things, you're not kind of dismissing the fighter. You see, you look at the first fight. For me, the judging was off. It should have probably been Dave Allen. I'm always going to say this. It's a bias towards the home fighter. You understand? They're bringing this kid through. He sells massive tickets. Dave Allen's just a fall guy, so to speak, in boxing. And all this money's been invested in Johnny Fisher. He's doing massive tickets. He's building himself up. They score it a bit close, whatever it was, draw, whatever. Was it a draw?
No, he won it.
He won it. Yeah, sorry, he won it. People saying it could have been a draw, or Dave Allen could have won it. So he's got through that one. It's a close fight. So he's won that fight. So the best thing is like, that were a bit of a close shave. You don't really want to go there again to prove the point. You've won it, whichever way it is. So you got that with the judges in the first fight. In the second fight, realistically, when Johnny Fisher went down, do you understand? It's the 5th round. There's another 5 rounds. He's not going to get through that fight. Once you're with a fighter like Dave Allen, they've got you down like that, and you're inexperienced, you're not going to get through that fight.
But saying that, he knocked him down the first fight in the 5th round, and he got through it still.
Yeah.
Dave says he wasn't fit enough. That's why he couldn't.
All right, so fair enough.
Dave said he wasn't.
Right.
Fit.
So once Dave Allen, if Dave Allen can do that, he knows in his mind he's not fit enough. And he's caused that problem. He thinks all he's got to think is right. He'll have felt the power of Johnny's shots. He'll have known how experienced Johnny was. He'll have seen vulnerabilities in Johnny that he couldn't capitalise on because he wasn't fit. So he thought, all right, all I've got to do this time is get fit because I can do everything else. Yeah. But Johnny Fisher went down bad. Do you know what I mean? He went down bad the first time. And it's not going to happen because, the referee probably ain't got enough balls for it. But realistically, he could have stopped the fight at that point and thought, what, you can't.
His legs dipped.
His legs are gone. And you can never know because, in America, that would have just done the same thing. But Marcus McDonnell was the referee.
Favourite referee?
Well, he's like I say, he's at the moment, he's had a couple of things where things have gone with the bell and all these things. It can happen to anybody, to be honest. But and he could have stopped it at that point. Do you know what I mean? And he gave Johnny Fisher enough time to recover. And there was not much time. There was about 15 seconds left in the round. And if Johnny Fisher was switched on in his corner, they just shouted to him, run. Run, you've got 15 seconds to survive. Just move around. Dave's not that fast. Just survive the 15 seconds. Get your minute break. And then see where you are. Dave would have probably caught up with him though, because he's been in with everybody. David Price, Dillian White, Luis Ortiz. He's been in with all these big names. He sparred with Usyk. So he can take a shot. I mean, remember this little story when he said he sparred Usyk and Usyk wobbled him, and then he stopped and went, "You're all right." Yeah. Dave's not daft. So once somebody like Dave smells blood, he didn't go rushing. He just composed himself, took his time, boom, 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 bang, and it was it. It was a bad knockout. And I'll be very surprised if Johnny mentally ever comes back from that, because it's an hard place to be, falling flat on your face. He's won the fight the first time. This time it was comprehensive on Dave's part. So, You can't even say with Gareth, oh, well, you know, he proved his dad wrong. His dad's just his dad. He's not a knowledge on boxing. He's just a fan of his son, and that's a response you would get. But you can't go calling out an experienced commentator, reporter who's seen years and years and years of boxing. Oh, you're wrong. Well, it's just my opinion. I might be wrong, but from all the experience I've had over the years, I'm thinking that like that weren't a close fight. I think it would be harsh on Dave. You're entitled, and you've got as a boxing trainer, as a dad, as a fan, you've got to respect what Gareth's saying, because he's not just saying it willy-nilly off top of his head. He's saying with Adam, he's talking from years and years and years and years and years of boxing and watching, like Colin Hart, like Adam Smith. You can't go, what do you know about boxing? Oh, I've just been doing it for 40 years, like, and been getting paid for doing it. I must know something. Like, you've got to respect their opinion. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. But you can't go, oh, you were wrong to say that. Well, no, I'm not. I'm getting paid to do it. It's my job. You can't have a go. The stuff he said about my fighters, the stuff he said about Ryan. But when I see him, I don't, Adam, oh, you know, I'm not doing an interview with you. I'm not talking to you. You should have said that. You can't go off like that, because you've got to respect his opinion. It's the same as he respects me as a trainer. I don't agree with everything I do or the way I go about it. But you don't go onto a personal level where you go, I'm not talking to him, you don't agree with what I say or what I'm doing, I'm not happy about that. You can't do that. And that's where that conversation ends with Gareth and his dad.
That is the final word on that. Thank you very much for another episode, Ryan. Hopefully we're trying, you behaved today, nothing controversial.
No swearing.
No mention of Frank Maloney, so we'll leave that one there. Kelly, sorry, my bad, Kelly Maloney. But yeah, thank you for your time, and thank you, Adam, for joining us today, and Dom, thank you.
What is the most powerful trait we have? You need power, speed. Let your imagination do the rest.